So today we are going to be looking at what the difference is between the press and the push press in Olympic weightlifting. So stay tuned. Welcome to my channel where I talk about all things mindset and weightlifting. And today we are going to be covering a weightlifting specific movement, the press versus the push press. So let's start looking at the stance, where you will start with the push press versus the press. Now with both movements you will see that your foot positioning is exactly the same. You do not want to stand wider with the one and narrow with the other one, because if you look at even progressions of what a beginner level athlete does in the beginning, they will start off with the press, and the press is the basic movement that they'll learn that will then move into the push press, which will then move into the power jerk and the split jerk, etc. So let's start with the press. Okay, we already covered that the foot positioning will be slightly, basically either hip width or slightly wider than hip width. The toes will either face forward or slightly out. Basically all you'll do is then also make sure your core is nice and tight, because you don't want to be like a noodle and move around, because obviously when you are loose like that, you do take away from the strength of the movement and you probably won't be able to press as heavy. And you also tend to feel that if you are like a noodle and you don't keep everything nice and tight and braced, you will also see when you do push presses, you'll tend to push yourself back, which will then ultimately lead to potentially lower back injuries. And that's something we do not want. Now the next step with the press, you will put the barbell in the front rack position. Again, this also depends on athlete to athlete. So each athlete is individualized when it comes to grip width, of how far they'll grip. As a beginner level athlete, you want the athlete potentially to grip just slightly wider than shoulder width, just so the barbell can sit nice and comfortably on their shoulders. You want to make sure that they have a big chest. From here, they will slightly bring their elbows down, not too much. You just want to make sure that the elbows aren't facing fully up, because you'll actually find that the athlete has more strength to generate upwards when the elbows are slightly down. Let me quickly show you from the side. So not here, you want to move it down slightly, and from here do your press. Then the next step is when you do the press movement, you want to slightly pull the neck in. You will then push the barbell up straight, and the position where it will end is either you will see the ear on the other side of the arm, or it will be in the middle of the head. Now moving on to the push press, same thing with the feet position. It will be slightly wider than hip width or hip width, either facing forward with the toes or slightly out. But make sure, guys, that whichever you choose or whichever is more comfortable, you stick with the same stance for the press, the push press, the power jerk and the split jerk, because ultimately those are all progressions that will move into each other. Next thing, the difference is now you will dip straight down when you do your dip and drive. That is the most important thing, is when you also do your dip and drive, you want to make sure that you dip straight down and drive straight up. If you dip with your butt back, or if you dip with your knees forward too much, and your back is basically bent backwards like that, you will again put a lot of pressure on your back. And secondly, without even talking about injuries or anything like that, you will lose so much strength and so much power. And you want to make sure that you use your legs in order to drive that barbell up in the push press. Guys, so in conclusion, you will see that there's not a massive difference, but the big difference is the dip and drive. And it will still, you'll start in the same position with your feet, it will end in the same position with your press and your push press. With your push press, you'll be able to also go a lot heavier than what you will with your press, just because now you have the legs to generate power as well. And these are both great assistant exercises to build strength in the upper body for movements like your split jerk. Guys, so I'd love to know in the comments below which one you like most, or which one you should be working on more. Like, which one have you personally been battling with, the press or the push press? And also, guys, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, ring that notification bell. I love making content for you, and the more likes I get and people subscribing to my channel, the more content I can make for you guys.